Hi there, my name is Tom Cole. I am the course leader for games design at UCA Rochester, and this is just a quickly and scrappily recorded video showing you essentially how to make a multiplayer Pong game in Construct 3 that you could then put onto your mobile phone and play with a friend. So if you're using Construct, the first thing you need to do is you need to open a web browser. My personal choice is Firefox, but it really doesn't matter which web browser. It could be that, could be Chrome, can be Edge. Doesn't matter. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go, oh, I don't care about the upgrade. You need to go to the Construct 3 website. I'm just going to make my image a bit, I'm going to make that full screen so we get rid of that stuff at the top. I will just log out. I'm going to log in again with my credentials. So you're going to see a screen looks a bit like this. I have a dark theme because I have the premium one. You might have different colors. You can change things. So go to new project, select SD portrait 16:9 or 916. I'm just going to call this Pong. Okay, nothing else needs to change. So change that. So you'll come to this screen here. So Construct has two kind of components to it in a way. It has the layout view and it has the event view. With the event view, it's essentially the logic in Construct happens here. If this happens, if this occurs, then do this. So you've got conditions or events, and these are called actions. So if this happens, do this thing. So I'm going to make Pong. It's going to be single player, get a single screen game rather for 2 players. I don't need these 4 screens worth of screen space going on here. So I'm going to click on layout. I'm going to change the size of my layout. I don't need all that, so I'm going to make it 480 854. So now you can see I've just got one single screen. Don't need to click about. Okay, so 1 or 2 things I'm going to do before I start. If I double click into the gutter around the space there, this brings up all the objects that you can add to your project. One thing I like to do at the beginning of a project, I like to add keyboard. If I double click again, I think it's at the bottom. Yeah, add browser. So if I add the keyboard and the browser, the reason is because I basically like to be able to press escape to quit the game. So now I can add event. So I've clicked the event view. I'm going to add the event. I'm going to go keyboard. On key pressed. What key? I'm going to put escape down here, which isn't a standard key. So when I press escape, browser, I'm just going to use the search. It's not in there. Just going to use the search function up here. Close. So when I press escape, I'm going to close. I'm going to take that full screen off because that jitteriness is really starting to annoy me. So I've got that. If I press F5 to run the game, you'll see that this is my preview with my grey screen. Okay, it won't do anything before I press escape. It goes out of it quickly. So I just like to do that. So other things. So got to layout. Let me click on layer. I don't like that background color. I'm going to make that a little brighter. So let's make it, I don't know, is that good? Just make it a little bit, doesn't be quite such a dark grey. Let's make that a bit lighter. There you go, that's nice. Not quite stark white, but a bit brighter. So we're going to start adding some objects here. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, your bread and butter object really of Construct is the sprite. So I'm going to add a sprite. Doesn't really matter what colour this is going to be. I'm just going to fill this with a red colour. So use the bucket fill tool. Doesn't matter what colour this is. You see a big box like that. Doesn't really matter what size it is. I'm going to make this say 32 across, and then we can just put an arbitrary figure in for the length. So I'm just going to position this just outside the viewable screen area. I'm going to click on the sprite. I'm going to rename it to wall. So these are going to be the walls that are going to stop my ball from bouncing out, and I'm just going to, you can see it's just on the edge, so that will do. And then nice little trick that you can do, there's 2 ways of doing this in Construct. You can do right click And I could do copy. Yeah, okay, fine. And then I can do paste. So I could do that. Easier. Click that, hold Control, drag and drop. And it's just a lot quicker to do that. So just place that there. It doesn't need to be too accurate. So got a wall on either side. And just for the time being, I'm going to select one. I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to put a wall at the very top. Here it stops my ball from bouncing at the top and the bottom. We will be removing these, the top and the bottom ones, but I'm just going to stick them in for now. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to make another sprite. Just give them another colour. Can make that sort of nice blue there. Again, these are only like flat colours, so I don't really care about the size. Let's make them 128 wide and say 32 high. That seems about right. That's fine. And then this is going to be player 1. So let's call it player 1. That's cool. So when you have these objects, you're going to add behaviors. So we have objects. This is a sprite, and we add behaviors to make the sprite do things, basically. So let's click on behavior, add new behavior. And you can either search through here to have a little look. If you know what you're looking for, you can click in the search bar up here. And I want 8 direction. Okay, so let's click out of that. 8 direction. If I run my game straight away, then there's a bit of a strange thing going on. I can use the cursor keys and I can move my object around in 8 directions. You'll notice this isn't very Pong-like. There's a few things we need to do. First of all, so with the player 1 object selected, over on the left hand side you can see the properties bar. Directions, left and right. Well, that sounds a lot better. Set angle, no, we don't want it to change angle. Default controls is fine for the time being. So run that again. Yeah, this is the type of thing you do when your game's developing. You change a thing, you run it. You see that movement is a little bit sluggish. You know, and Pong is a very kind of arcadey, sudden movement. And this is like accelerating up and slowing down. Don't want that, press escape. If I just whack this up to something stupid like 10,000, run this again, and now my movement is a lot sharper. Something a little bit difficult to convey in a video, but if you change this, you will feel a difference. Changes the game feel quite drastically. At the moment, I can go right off the screen, and I can come back, and you can see I can go off the other end of the screen. So that is a bit of an issue. So we will deal with that now. So whilst I'm in behaviors, I've got my object selected. I'm going to add a behavior. New behavior, solid. Solid means it won't go through anything. So if I run that again, but I should still see that, yeah, it's still going out the side. That's because those walls aren't solid. Now if I click wall on the right hand side over here on my project, that'll select all of them. I don't want to add the solid behavior to just one. So if I added a behavior here, the risk is I might only add it to one of these walls and not all of them. So click the wall in the project over here rather than the instance over here. Behaviors, add behavior, new behavior, solid. Okay, press escape to cancel that window. Press F5 to run the game. Bosh, there you go. And now I can't actually exit out. My player is locked within the screen, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so let's just move that up a little bit. I'm going to create another sprite. I'm going to create it down there. And if we remember the size of our, so how big was our, I think it's 480 wide, I think, our screen here. So tell you what we're going to do, we're going to change the size of this right now. So if it's 480, then that means that we want our, these are going to be the buttons we're going to use to control the player. So I'm going to make that 240 width, and the height I'm going to make 64, and we'll see how that works out. I'm going to make these like a nice, just like slightly different color, fill that blue, that will do. And then I'm going to draw a line, and let's see how this looks. It's probably a bit too thick, but again, this doesn't really matter. All I want it to do is to perform a function. Okay, So it goes to the left. So you can see how that goes. I am going to do just a little thing on this to make sure this gets aligned. I'm going to move the origin point. So the origin point is where the computer thinks this object is. So this is 0, 0 on this object. So when it moves the object, it relates to this coordinate here. I'm just going to do a quick assign. I can make this quick assign to the bottom left. And what this will do, if I click into the space here, and if I just do show grid snap to grid, then that should allow me to, okay, it's not going to allow me to do that what I want actually, so let me just take the grids off. I want that to be perfectly aligned with the bottom left of the screen. So what I can do here is with the position, if you remember our layout is 854, so it's 480 by 854. So if I make this 0, 854, that's the position, that button, that is perfectly aligned with the bottom left, which is what I want. Now, I want another button on the other right hand side, and these are the things we're going to be touching to move player 1, but I don't want to copy that because it's actually going to be a different button. But what I can do to save me having to draw the graphics again is I can right click, I can clone the object type, click where I'm going to put that, and so we've got another object type. What I should have done is I should have renamed it before I did that. So if I rename the first one, bottom left, I'm going to call that P1 left. Then our new one that I've got here, I'm just going to call P1 right. If you're wondering how I'm getting the rename function up quickly, it's by pressing F2. Keyboard shortcuts are really good to use. You know, I can rotate this around. You can see I can resize it there. Don't do that. If I push my cursor out a little bit, I can start to rotate it. Or, you know what, I can just put in the angle exactly that I want. And again, I'm going to use some kind of trickery. I know where I want this to go. If I know where I want this to go. I know I want this to go on the far right hand side. So the position, it was 64. So I want this to be 480, which it happened to be already. But I want it to be 64. Sorry, I want this to be 854 minus 64, so that's going to be 790. The reason that is because I rotated this, because I was lazy basically, because I rotated this, you can rotate the picture, I just rotated the whole object. The origin, where the computer thinks it is now in the top right hand corner here. So that's 480 by 790. This object is 0, 854. And now we have two objects. This is P1 left and this is P1 right. Fantastic. Just looking where, right, okay, fine. So next thing is double click in the gutter again, and we're going to go down to a kind of input. Now I'm going to include touch here. So let's insert that. Now touch is a method of control. It's an object that's going to go in the project, but you won't see it out here. So you can see this object is available to the entire project. So what that now means is when I go into my event sheet, I can add an event and I can go into the touch. So this is where we start programming the logic of the game. So let's go to touch. And what I want to do is touching object. So is touching object, which object? Okay, P1 left. So now it's like, if this happens, if we are touching P1 left, then what do? Well, we go to player 1. We're going to look at one of its behaviors, the 8 direction one, simulate control, go left. Okay, now if I run that, press F5, run that, then I click that, it's going to go left. Now, the other one doesn't do anything because I haven't told the computer what to do yet, but you can see that that is working. Now, if I select, and when you select an event, make sure you select on the far left-hand side, otherwise you might only select that bit or that bit. Make sure, so if I copy and paste, Control-C, Control-V, I can do is touching P1 left, I can just change that to P1 right. Just makes things a little bit quicker. This will come up there, P1 right. There you go. Press F5, run the thing. Right. Oh, just lost the focus. That's all right. Right, left, right, left. Okay, fine. So let's close that. So that's fantastic. I'm also just going to save at this point. So I should have done this at the beginning. What you want to do, let's just take a deviation here. So if you go to menu and go to settings, save and backup. Now, for the sake of this video, I am going to save to local browser. But what you can do is you can save to the cloud. So let me just show you. If you save to the cloud, if I press Control S, if you don't want to do that, you can do menu, you can do project, you can do save. Then you can select which, what Dropbox, OneDrive and Google Drive, what you want to do. And what you'll find is it will start going through the whole authorization thing. This will be, look, you can see it's waiting to go to Google. This already has my details. Okay, so you can save in your cloud storage. Now, for the sake of this and save for speed, I'm just going to make it save in the browser because I've done this already. I can get to periodically back up the active project, and I can make it save every two. I can make it save every 2 minutes if I want to. I think 5 is a bit more sensible. That is really important to set. I should have done that at the beginning. I didn't. I'm not re-recording the video. So make it local browser or cloud, and it will automatically save every 5 minutes. That stops you spending ages getting something right, and then the computer crashes or you click a wrong thing and you lose 30 minutes of your work. That is never a cool situation. Alright, so we've played buttons, we've had the touch object, we've had the touch controls to player 1. Right, okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add our ball. So I'm going to add another sprite. Again, our bread and butter object. I am going to resize this here. I'm going to make this 32 by 32. It's that thing I'm clicking, by the way. Resize. Alright. We can make that a color. Let's make it black or very dark brown. Escape to get rid of that window. There you go. There is our ball. Fantastic. So I'm going to add a behavior. I'm going to add the bullet behavior. For some reason, the computer, normally the computer will put the cursor in the search thing so you can just type straight away, but my computer's not playing well today, so it just happens. So you've got bullet in the behaviors. I want it to bounce off solids here. I don't want it to set angle, so tick bounce off solids, untick set angle, enabled, that's fine. Run the game. What is that doing now? Okay, so it starts going at angle 0. In construct, angle 0 is to the right, and then the angles go clockwise from there. So down is 90 degrees, left is 180 degrees, up is 270 degrees, and then right is 0 or 360 degrees. So this starts at 0 degrees. We'll come back and change that in a moment, so it's just bouncing back and forth. That is fine. So to the walls, etc. We've got solid on the player, that's good. Okay. Yeah, so that's great. So there's our ball. Let's just so tell you what we'll do. We will change the angle of the ball at the start, so you can see another event I'm going to use. So add event, system, and then if you put in start, on start of layout. So anything that happens on start of layout happens in the very first frame, the very moment that this level, this layout is loaded. So on start of layout, I'm going to go sprite. I haven't renamed it yet. Naughty, naughty. Don't do set angle for the object. Scroll down and do set angle of motion for the bullet. And you can use a funky thing here. You can type. So you could just put. What would I put? I could put, I don't know, 135, and then you'll see what happens. Press F5, you can see what your changes do straight away. And there you go. So because I put the ceiling and the floor in, it can't actually escape in a moment. So 135, it's pointing down to the left. What I can do is I can do random. So if left is 180. I can do, say, random between 200, so 20 degrees up from that, to, say, 340. This will now choose a random number between 200 and 340 and set the angle to that. So it's going to point up like that, but if I stop it and restart it, you'll see that there's a different angle. If I do that again, maybe it'll be a bit more different. Okay, you can see that's a different angle each time. Yeah, and whilst I'm here, just to save me home to escape and rerun things, let's add a shortcut event. Add event keyboard on key pressed. You want to click to choose. I'm going to press R. Okay, so whenever I press R, add system restart layout. There you go. And look, so the ball starts at an angle. I press R, it starts different angle, different angle. You can see that it's going to restart different things. So just using a little random function, it's nothing complicated, just adds a little bit of unpredictability and kind of more interest to your game. It's less predictable. So change the angle of the ball at the beginning. Right, so what I want to start doing now is I want to add some variables at the top of my screen. What's a variable? A variable is a container for a piece of information. So let's just add one. So add global variable. Don't worry about global and local. You don't need to know what that means. So say I want to change the speed of that ball quite simply and quickly. Rather than digging down into the speed of the bullet, I can create a variable called ball speed. It's going to be a number. Variables can be one of three things. You can have a number, which is just as it says. A string is a piece of text. It's just a fancy way of saying text. A boolean is again a program way of saying true or false. So booleans are either on or off. They're 0 or 1. They are true or false. We usually talk about booleans being true or false. So I'm going to leave this as a number. Our speed is currently 400. Let's just make that 250. And now you can see I've got a variable at the top here. Okay. So let me create another variable for player speed. Now I'm going to create a second player in a moment, and I want both of them to be at the same speed. So let's just say that speed is 150. Next variable I'm going to add is score. You obviously want a number to represent the score. We need to record that somewhere. So let's call this P1 score. It's going to be a number, but it will start off as 0. That's fine. And then I'm going to need the same as P2 score. So that's 0. There's going to be one more variable in this project, but I'll come back to in a bit. So let's implement these top two at the moment. So on start of layout, it's going to set the bullet angle motion, and what we can also do is I can go to, I still haven't renamed it. Let's do that in a second. I can go to the bullet of my ball and I can set speed, and then set speed to ball speed. Now you see how I've started typing ball and it's come up with this ball speed. It knows that that might be something that I want to use, and constructors, indeed many programming languages and engines, will suggest things to you. Do you mean this? And it's very, very helpful. So ball speed, it's going to set the speed to ball speed. Before I forget, let's change that to something interesting like ball. Whenever you're naming your objects, by the way, it is not the time to get fancy. Just be dull and boring so it's really clear what's going on. So to check that's worked, we've got bullet speed. So we've made the ball speed 250. Let's start the game. Okay, so you can see that's moving a bit slower. What if we made the ball like super slow and made it 50? Is that going to have an effect? Yes. Okay, so that's going pretty slow. Wouldn't make a particularly great game. Okay, so ball speed. Let's whack that up to something like 300 for the time being. So we've done that. We can also do, actually, I'm going to wait to implement the player speed in a second. Let's go back to layout. Player 1 buttons. Makes sense now that we need player 2 and player 2 buttons. Okay, so let's clone that object, stick it up here. What happens is now that I've got my player 1 object working, when I clone it and make this what it's calling player 2 automatically for me, because it'll have a guess at the numbers for me. It already comes with 8 direction. It already comes with solid. So that's nice. So let's just stick those there. And then I'm going to clone that object type again. And that can be up there. I'm just going to, for the sake of time, I'm just going to place it now. But if you want to be picky about it, then you know what to do. And then there is the other one. Okay. So I do need to rename these now because you'll see that these are gone P1 right, etc. So I don't want it P1 left 2. This is going to be P2 left. And then, where is it? That one. Okay, so make sure I selected the right one. F2, P2 right. So I've got player 1 left, player 1 right, player 2 left, player 2 right. And then I'll player 2 there. So you'll see that we had this before. I am going to go and copy and paste both of these. And then if it's touching player 2 left, and then what I can do here is I can right click, replace object, and pick the object to replace player 1 with player 2. Just a slightly quicker way of getting things working. So player 2 right, and then I'm just going to replace the object with player 2. So let's just check I've entered that all that in right. Left, player 1 will go left, 1 right, player 1 will go right. 2 left, yeah, that seems pretty good. Let's go and test it. Press F5. Okay, so that goes all the way to the left, all the way to the right rather, all the way to the left. This goes all the way to the left and all the way to the right. Fantastic. Okay, and our ball's just bouncing around. We haven't made it do anything yet. If you want to make your code a bit easier, this is starting to, I mean, there's not going to be many events in this project, but as your projects get bigger, you do need to organize things. You can put them in groups. So if you right click here, add group, I'm going to call this something interesting like controls. And I can do click that, do shift click like you would do with files, drag and drop these. Now you see where there's this little nudge in. It's not there on the far left. That would just reorder it. I've got it underneath controls and just a little bit in. And then you can see that this is nudged in a little bit, and it means I can later on I can fold that up, and I don't need to really look at that. I'm just going to stick that back at the top. You want to reorder your code like this because it just makes your life a lot easier. So let's just leave that there. So we've got player 2, we've got player 2 buttons, we've done our touch controls, so that's all great. Okay. Whenever this ball starts at the beginning of the game, whenever this ball goes past a player and goes off the screen, we're going to have to do a reset function for it every single time. So when you're writing games and you're writing code and stuff, whenever you want to do something several times, the same thing several times, you put it in a container called a function. We just need to add that functionality to construct. So double click in here and our function is there. So again, light touch, it's not a visual object, it's a functionality. So this object is now available to the entire object. So now I'm going to add an event. I'm going to add function, so on function. And I need quotes. So notice the quotes. Your text here should be in a different color. There should be speech marks either side of it. I'm going to call this function ball reset because it resets the ball. See what I've done there? I'm just going to bring up a file that I should have brought up just a little bit before, just to make sure I'm doing this clearly. Okay, we should be back. So on ball reset. So what you need to be very careful about here is you need to, so I'm going to right click and you need to add a sub function. Now what's the easiest way to do this? If I right click, there you go. So you can't right click on there. That was not going to help you. You need to right click on the very far left here on where the arrow is, and you can do add sub event. So what's our sub event going to be? So the first thing I want to happen is I want my ball, I want the bullet behavior to be disabled. So where's my bullet? Here we are, is enabled. And then what we want to do, bullet isn't, oh sorry. Idiot. Sorry, you don't want that at all. Delete that. Gosh, can't believe it did that. So on ball reset, we add an action. Let me just delete that. Add an action. Forget what I just said. I'm not going to re-edit this, I'm afraid. So ball, you're going to set to disabled. So I want the ball to stop moving. And then also, so a lot of people might say, oh, then you want to destroy the ball. there's no point doing that. If you destroy the ball, you've just got to recreate it another time. Actually, as time goes on, these things become expensive for the computer to do. It takes a lot of effort for the computer to do this. It wouldn't here, but it's just a good habit to get into. So I'm actually going to set the position off the screen. So if I put it at minus 100, minus 100, that actually means it's up and to the left of the screen. So I'm going to set position to minus 100 for both. And I'm going to make it weight. So that's system, and then system, where is it? Ooh, there you go, weight, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to make it wait for 2 seconds. So it goes off, it's going to wait for 2 seconds. I'm going to bring it back, so set position. I'm going to put it in the middle of the screen. So the middle of the screen is 240 by 427. I'll go through this again once I've finished. I'm going to make it get wait again for another. Where is it? Oh, I'm going the wrong thing. System, sorry. System. Wait. Make it wait for a second. And then going to add our ball. And then set enabled. Going to change that to enabled. So set enabled. Just going to leave that for a second. Blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, allow. Yeah. Yeah, save. Okay, it's because I'm saving it. I don't know. It's just a habit. I press Control S as a kind of unconscious habit. So what's happening here is that I'm stopping the ball from moving. I'm putting it off screen. I'm waiting for 2 seconds. I'm bringing it back onto the middle of the screen. I'm waiting for a second. I'm going to enable it. Let's see how that works. Well, it's not going to work because there's nothing to actually make it do stuff. You can see it's going behind those buttons because it doesn't bounce off of those buttons. But one way that I can test it is I can add a keyboard function. So event keyboard on key pressed. Let's make this a B for ball reset this time. So on ball reset, add action, function, call function. And if you open the quote marks, it will actually give you a list of all the functions. And I can select ball reset and it will do that. So F5. So if I press B, 1, there you go. 1, 2, back, 1, move. 1, 2, back in the middle, waits a second and then it moves. It's going to continue at the same. So I'll tell you what, we'll come back to this because that's a bit of an issue. The fact that it's continuing at the same angle. What we really want is for it to move just slightly differently. But like I said, I'll come back to that. Oh, and now I've lost my script. Where's my other script? There we go, that's my other script. Okay, fine. So add the function object, the ball reset function. Okay, I will implement this now. So the problem with this, so if I just go back to the game. So you see the angle that ball is moving at. When it comes back, it'll continue moving at that angle. And actually, I don't want it to be that predictable. So we can do something about this. I'm going to add another variable. So add a global variable. I'm just going to call it starter. It could be a number for 0. That's not a problem. So on ball reset, underneath the last event, I'm going to add an action. And I'm going to do system. And then we're going to do set value. And it's not going to be ball speed. It's going to be this new starter value. It's going to be to random. Random 1. So what that does is it's going to set starter to value between 0 and 1. So it could be any value between 0 and 1. So what I'm going to do is if it's less than 0.5, it's going to start again moving towards one player. And if it's more than 0.5, it's going to start moving at a random angle towards the other player. So at this point, I've done that. And then I'm going to press S to do a sub event from the ball reset. So what I want to do is I want to compare variable. So is starter, and I want to do less than or equal to 0.5. Okay, and you can see I've done a sub event, which means that ball reset will execute these things first, and then there's two ways that it could branch after this. Let me come back to that. So starter is less than or equal to 0.5. Then what happens there is the ball, we're going to set our angle, where is it? Set angle of motion, and that is going to be a random figure between 45 degrees and 135 degrees. So what that's going to be firing down. If I copy and paste that, it's another sub event, but I'm going to change this here. So it's going to be greater than. I don't want to have greater than or equal to, otherwise if it's 0.5 in the middle, then these two instructions will conflict and it'll crash basically. So if I set the bullet angle here, I'm just going to change these two numbers here. I'm going to set it to 225. Ooh, take out the extra comma that I just put in there. And what's the other one? 315. So what's happening here? When the ball reset function gets started, disable, set it off screen, wait for 2 seconds, it comes back. It waits for a second, it starts moving again. Now, what way is it going to start moving? Well, we're going to set this to random between 0 and 1. If it's less than or equal to 0.5, then the ball is going to project downwards towards player 1. In our example, if it's more than 0.5, it's going to fire upwards at a random angle towards player 2. So you see how that works. Okay, so if I reset it, okay, different angle. Comes back, different angle, still firing up, but every now and again it will fire down, and it's at a random angle. So this again is just providing a little bit of unpredictability, which is nice. You want to have that. You want to keep players on their toes. Okay, so not a huge amount more. We have players that move, we have a ball that bounces around. Now it's safe to say that if the ball here hits these buttons here, then that means that this player has missed it. Just bring them forward a little bit actually. That this player has missed the ball, and that means that this player here, player 1, gets some score. And vice versa. If that ball hits these buttons, that means it must move past this player, and that means that player 2 gets a score. Okay, so how do we display that? Well, we've got our score here, but we've got no way to show it to the player. So let's just correct that, shall we? So double click in there. We're going to have just text. Not text input, please. People often select text input, but that's not correct. So I'm just going to put P1 score. Let's just put P1 there. It's just as a placeholder. And let's make it bold. Hello? Yeah. Let's make it bold. Maybe make it 14 size. There you go. And we're just going to make it a little horizontal line. Let's make it in the center. There you go, I'll do. So let's just put that down there, just fairly unobtrusive. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it P1 score text. Don't call it P1 score. You already have P1 score. That's a variable. And then what we can do is we can clone that object type, put it up there, because I changed the formatting of the text. What we can then do is change the name of it to P2 score text, take the 2 off the end. All these things are absolutely fine, but what I will do, I will just change the angle to 270. Oop. Sorry, change it to 180, I mean. What that means is it's going to be facing the other player. And this doesn't matter for the function, but just to make it clear, I'm going to make it P2. Because the idea of this game is that you've got two people holding a mobile phone between each other, so it now means that text is going to show, it's going to be readable by the person. Readable by that person who's got that score. Okay, so we've got a way to display it. Let's go and hook up the logic. So we are going to, so find a bit of code for the score. So add event if So if the ball, on collision with another object, if the ball collides with P1 right, and then what we can do here, go here, add another condition, P1 left. So P1 left, sorry, go back, ball, hold on. Okay, it's right, I know what's happening here. I can't put two trigger conditions in one place. What you want to do here is we want to make this so that on collision with P1 right, or if you hit the P1 left button. So if you hit either of these buttons, then add 1 to the player 2 score. Okay. So what you want to do before that, you right click there, make it an OR block. Okay, so make it an OR block, and then now I can either right click and add condition, I can press C, and I can do ball on collision with another object, and I've got P1 right, so I want to add P1 left, right, because I made it an OR block. If you don't make it an OR block, that it means both of these things must occur at the same time, and that's actually impossible for collisions there. But on collision with P1 right, or if you collide with P1 left, then what you're going to do, you are going to, first of all, you're going to call function. You're going to call the function. What function you're going to call? It's the only function we got. Ball reset. So that code is now working for us again. Going to call ball reset. You're going to add 2, and then add 2. So this is P1 right, P1 left. So you're going to add to player 2 score the value of 1. And then you're going to set P2 score text, and then you're going to go down here to where is it? Set text, and this is going to be P2 score. So you hit the player 1 buttons, that means that player 1 is messed up. You're going to reset the ball, you're going to add 1 to player 2 score, and you're going to set the score, set the text to reflect that new way of doing things. I can copy and paste that whole thing. And now I can change these, so it's going to be P2 left and then P2 right. Doesn't matter which way around you do it. You're still going to call the ball reset. I'm going to add 1 to P1 score, and then I'm going to set the text to P1 score. Be careful that you actually change these things appropriately, otherwise they'll be displaying the wrong score to each other. Let's have a look at that. There you go. So if it hits that, it's going to go to 1. You see? So I've got my arrow keys still. So I forgot to say, I've still got the arrow keys enabled for our oh, player 2's doing very well. Let's see if we can get player 1 some score, shall we? Oh dear, my mouse walked off the player 1 thing. Ah. Well, I've got a bug there, because it's hitting those and it's doing a player 2 score for them. So that's a bit strange. Let's just have a look. Ah, there you go. Told you to be careful. So I've added 1 to player 1 score, 2 score. I've added 1 to player 2 score, but I haven't. So set text to P1 score. So it's like, yeah, what's wrong? Player 2 score text. That needs to be. Let's go back. Actually, don't do that. Right click, replace object, player 1 score text. I needed to update the player 1 score text, not the player 2 score text. There you go. It's good for you to see bugs. Okay. Then there's 2. Let's see if we can give player 2. Oh, blimey, some divs. This is difficult if you're actually trying to play with a mouse. There you go. Now they started to get 1. If I play for player 2, oh, I'm too slow. There you go. So you can see that these 2 are starting to rack up our points. Player's a little bit slow is probably what I would take away from this, rather than, you could also say that I'm rubbish. Ooh, there you go. Oh, tense. Okay, so the score is working as it should do. We didn't do this earlier. So if I wanted to change the speed that those players move at, I would have to go back to layout. I'd have to go, if I didn't have those variables there, I'd have to go back to layout. I'd have to go to player 2. I'd have to go and change the max speed, and I'd have to go to player 1, and I'd need to change the max speed as well every time I change anything. That's a bit of a pain. So what I'll do is on the start of layout, if I just add this, player 1, and then set speed is going to be to player speed. And then if I do the same player 2, set speed, it's going to be player speed. There you go. Now I can just change this once, and you need to do this when you're playing, when you're working with games. You need to do this because you do change these numbers a lot, because you're trying to work out how to get a proper game feel. You go and change something, you test your game again. This is what happens. Okay, and then bosh. Okay, so they're moving a bit quicker. I'll probably put player speed slightly quicker, actually, at 350. Yeah, and then you go and test it again. One more thing I'm going to do, start of layout. At the moment, that text is just saying P1 and P2. It'd be nice if it said 0. So at the beginning, player 1 score text, set text to P1 score, which should be 0. So set the player 1 score text to P1 score, and do the same with the other one. Set text to P2 score. Make sure it's score, not score text. When we start up, wonderful. We've got 2 zeros. Now it's changing. Fine, that's great. Okay. So the last thing that you would do here. So that's all our events. We're all done here. So we had our controls, touching our groups left and right. I can still control my keyboard, but it doesn't really matter. We've got a few debug commands in here, so put those up there. And yeah, what I could actually do is I can grab those and put them in the controls group. And so what you'd have to do is have to drag it up and to the right, so you can see that goes into the right, and then you can see it's actually jumped into that group now. Convention means that start of layout, you normally have that at the top just for the sake of reading it. Yeah, let's put that keyboard back in the control. So yeah, these are the things you do to tidy up your code. So we have everything here. Ways that you could extend this. You can add audio. So if you wanted to add audio, let's do that quickly. Double click, add the audio object. Where is it? Audio. Again, not a visible thing, it's a functionality. So you go in there. I strongly recommend that you go to this website, bfxr.net. See if it'll load. Run Adobe Flash. Yeah, go on. Adobe. It will run it eventually. There you go. Right. So with this, you can play various sounds. Oh, it seems to be okay. So doing to let me run the Flash version of the website. So I still maintain that this, so bfxr.net. You can go there. You should be able to run the Flash version from the website. I've just downloaded the standalone version, so I've got it here. So I'll just get rid of that. It seems to just like be crashing, etc. This is exactly the same. Easy way to just generate loads of effects. Hopefully you can hear that. I don't know if you can hear that from the computer. And what you do is you find an effect you like, so export the WAV. I'm just going to stick that on my desktop, and that will do, just for the sake of showing in here. Yeah, I want to exit, that's fine. So what you do in Construct is you come to sounds, and then you right click and you do import sounds. So import audio, I'm going to go to my desktop. You can see it's got hit hurt there. And then you do import. Now it's imported. You can preview if you want to. And what you do in this event sheet, so for example, every time you reset the ball, you might want to have this play a sound. Oh, actually, here you go. So when it hits one of the buttons, add an action, audio, play, hit hurt, don't loop it, otherwise that will just like burn your ears, it'll be terrible. There you go. So play hit hurt. So when it hits one side of the buttons, one set of buttons, and play those, and I can do control, drag, and drop just to copy that onto the other one. And yeah, so that's going to play a sound whenever it plays. So if you did that and you went to play things, then when it hits the buttons, it's going to play a little sound and it'll restart. And you can have it like, you could have the ball bouncing. So the way you do that is add event and then ball, and let's go to enabled. So it'd be on collision with another object. So whenever it bounces into another object, then you can say it's going to bump, it's going to create a sound, etc. And you can have it for different sounds for different objects and things like that. So that's the way there's no actual kind of like on bounce, as it were, with the bullet behavior. It's kind of too complicated to get into. But you could do on collision with another object. And you could say on collision with the walls or with collision with the player. You can make it the same object. You can make it different objects. So those are some of the things that you can do. So other things you could do, you could add audio like that. Another ways you can add a windscreen. I'm just going to keep this to an hour, so I'm going to sort of you could add a windscreen. So how would you do this? So best thing to do, it's not so much a windscreen, I'm just going to do some wind text, and say we did that something quite large. I'm just going to arrange that line, viewport or layout rather, center over, that'll do. So I'm going to call this wind text. I'm going to make this something celebratory like winner, winner, chicken dinner. And no, I've not played PUBG. I'm an Apex Legends man, if you must know. Alright. Winner, chicken dinner. Let's make it bigger. Okay. So if we did that, vertical alignment in the we did center, horizontal alignment in the center. That's great. Doesn't really matter where the alignment is. Okay, so we can do that. And what you can do is you say initially visible, no, which means when you start it, you're not going to see that thing. Okay, but what you could do is you go to the event sheet. And we could do compare variable. So if P1 score is greater than or equal to, say, 3, because we're just testing it, I don't want to wait forever. Then you can do, so if the player 1 score is greater than or less than 3, then add action, and then win text. It's going to be set visible. Where is it? Set visible to visible, and then you know, for ball reset, you might as well actually on start of layout. Let's just add start of layout. Let's do win text set visible to invisible on start layout, because then what you can do is when that's done, set visible, and then we can do system wait for 3 seconds, and then just do system, and then just do restart layout. Now, of course, not only if player 1 score gets to 3, you also want to do it if player 2 score gets to 3. So you can press C to add a condition. So let's go to system, compare variable. Player 2 score is great. Oh, great. Yeah, greater than or equal to 3. But what you need to make sure you do here is you need to make this an OR block. Otherwise, this system is going to wait for both of these to wait till 3. So it will wait until player score is 3 and player 2 score is 3, or greater than or equal to 3. So again, right click, make an OR block. So when either of them, either of those conditions are true, then set the win text visible, wait for 3 seconds, restart the layout. It's probably a good idea when we start the layout, add action, to run our function again, which will move our ball, set it off screen, otherwise you'll restart the layout and then no one will have any chance to get their head in the game again. I just saved it. Head in the game again in order to play. So let's look at the whole thing. Okay, so we started. You see we've had our little pause to get everyone. Typical, it would go that angle now, wouldn't it? So if I just try and lose, basically. Oh, for goodness sake. Okay. I should have just pressed R actually at that point, shouldn't I? Okay, waiting for our ball, and it starts. That's great. Just gonna move that. Oh, get out of the way. Oh, there you go. So they've got one. Oh, loser. It's tense. Oh, they're coming back. Whoa. Good lord, the tension is so high. There you go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. 2, 3. Oh, and there's a bug. So restart the layout. So if you restart the layout, it should set the win text. So start layout, does that to that. So it takes the score. Ball reset. Ah, I tell you what it is. It's stuck in a infinite loop. So when this is when either of these are true, it says set visible. Wait 3 seconds to restart the layout. We're not resetting these figures. So what we need to do, so the global variables will continue when you restart the layout. So what we need to do is actually, when either of those are 3, then you need to wait 3 seconds. And then, so let's just actually, so when we restart the layout, add this. Again, it's good that you see, quite frankly, it's good that you see bugs and how to fix them. We all get bugs. If your stuff doesn't work, it's not because you're rubbish, it's because you're actually doing something useful. And it's because you're actually doing something a bit different. So don't ever be discouraged by your stuff breaking or your stuff not working properly. Let's see how we go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Restarts. There you go. And there'll be the same kind of thing. Okay, let's see if we can get it. Okay, let's do it again. Either one of them. There you go, winner, winner, chicken dinner. You got the ball coming back because that's the ball function acting, but you know, we'll just allow that. That's absolutely fine. So there you have it. And this is a way to make a 2-player Pong. If you want to get this onto a mobile phone, last thing is you can only do this in a paid version of Construct 3. But you do up here. So when you press F5, that's normally preview layout. What you can do with a paid version, you do remote preview. What Construct will do, it will upload a version of your game to this website. You'll take, what you use is your mobile phone to scan this QR code. I don't have my mobile phone on me, so I can't see it. I can't show you how it looks on the screen. You'll scan that QR code. It will get you to visit that URL. And then you will see on this screen that it's loading in. And then you'll see your game on the, in a browser on your mobile phone. And so that is why we use the touch object to click these buttons, because now you can touch the screen of your phone and you can play that game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry it was about an hour, but I wasn't going to plan this anymore. and hopefully you got something out of the workshop, and I hope you enjoy playing around with Construct, which, you know, we're only using that remote preview as the only paid option we're using today. There is so much to be had in Construct. Please go ape and enjoy yourself making some games. Cheers.